Have you ever wondered how applications can think and make decisions? Conditional statements allow you to specify a block of code that runs only if a particular condition is met and power many different parts of code, including artificial intelligence in games. In this application I have here, I can test the movie and press a key to make the border move to the right. Now, it doesn't matter which key I press. I'm pressing the up arrow now and the space bar now. The border always moves to the right. What if we wanted to only move them to the right when we press the right key and move them to the left when we press the left key? Let's look at how to do that. I'll close the window, select the first keyframe of the Actions layer, and open up the Actions panel. So here I have some code that adds an event listener to the stage, listening for the keyboard event.keyDown event, and then it runs a function called keyPressed. Inside of the keyPressed function, I can use something called a conditional statement to check which key was pressed. To do that, I'll put my cursor above the border_MC line of code, and then press return so I can get a space above that code. Here I'll type the word if, lowercase, some parentheses, and then I'm going to wrap that code that says border_MC.x inside of curly braces. And just for presentation's sake, I can tab the border line of code in, just to clean up the code a little bit. And in the parentheses after if, I'm going to type the condition that needs to be true in order for the border to move to the right. So the condition is going to be if the key that was pressed is the right key on the keyboard. And I mean right as in the direction right, and also right as in correct. So if EVT, and that's the event that gets received, that's an object that actually comes in to the function whenever a key is pressed, and that contains information like what key was pressed and other information like that. So EVT.keyCode, as soon as I type a K, you'll see keycode highlighted in my code hinting window. So I'll just press return, and then a space, and then two equal signs. That's different than one equal sign. One equal sign is used to set a value, like when you're setting the value for a variable. But two equal signs is a comparison operator. And instead of meaning is, like one equal sign means, two equal signs means is equal to. So we use two equal signs in conditional statements. So event.keyCode is equal to, and then a space. And then I'm going to type the right key command, which is keyboard dot right, all caps. So if the key code of the event is the right key, or in other words, is equal to the key code of the right key on the keyboard, then move the border to the right. So let's test the movie now and see what happens. I'm pressing the space bar, I'm pressing the return key, I'm pressing the up arrow and the down arrow and the left arrow. He doesn't move. I press the right arrow and the border moves. So naturally, if we move the border to the right, we should also move them to the left. Let's just copy and paste this whole block. So from the closed curly brace of the if statement up to the word if, copy that with Command or Control C, and then go down right below that curly brace. Make sure you're not messing with the curly brace for the function, but the curly brace for the if statement. And then paste the code. So I have two if statements. And I'm going to change keyboard.right to keyboard.left in the pasted code. And think about what you might change in the border_MC line to make the border move backwards. Simply change the plus sign to a minus sign. We add to his X position to move him to the right. We subtract from the X position to move him to the left. Test the movie, and he moves right and left. Now, if a person playing the game presses the right and the left key at the same time, then there's going to be a conflict. So what we want to do is make it so only one of these blocks of code runs. So we only move the border to the left if the person playing the game is not pressing the right key. To specify that, click before the second if statement and type the word else, and then a space. So what this means is, first we check to see if the right key was pressed, and if not, or in other words, else, check to see if the left key was pressed. In that case, move the border to the left. Now, you can keep having if statements and else if statements as many times as you want, and you'll have like a hierarchy with else if statements. And finally, you can end a statement with an else statement. You can just specify what you want to happen if none of the conditions are met. So I'll type the word else, and then some curly braces. And inside of the curly braces, I'll type trace. And then in quotes in the trace statement, I'll just type, you didn't press left or right. So I'll test the movie, and left or right, move the border, but if I push the up arrow, then I get the you didn't press left or right message. So of course you can run whatever code you want in there, or not have the else statement altogether. Let's look at a different type of conditional statement. Going to delete the code that I have here inside of the function, making sure to preserve the curly braces of the function. And then instead of using if and else, I'm going to use a conditional statement called switch case. I'm going to type the word switch, and in parentheses, I'm going to type in evt.keycode. So that's the key code of the event. And some curly braces. The switch statement allows us to check one bit of data, in this case, event.keycode, and do different things based on the value of that particular piece of data. So when you're working with a key press, this is more effective and requires less code than using an if statement. So with the switch statement, I type the word case, and then I type the value in for the first example. So that's keyboard.write. So this is a different way of writing that if statement. This is basically saying the same thing. If event.keycode is equal to keyboard.write. Then after that, type a colon, then go to the next line, and then tell Flash what you want to do if the right key was pressed. So that's border _mc.x space plus equals space 5, and then a semicolon. And then to optimize a switch case statement, you tell the statement to stop looking for different options by going to the next line and typing the word break. So this is like the first if statement that we created. Case is keyboard.write, then move the border to the right 5 pixels. So let's test this out and see how it works. It works exactly the same as the if statement. So let's take those 3 lines, select them all, copy, Command-C or Control-C, go to the next line, paste the code. Now we can change keyboard.write to keyboard.left, change the plus to a minus, then test the movie again. So we can move the border right and left now, but the other keys also don't work. And if you wanted to do a final else statement like we did with the other one where none of the conditions are met, with a switch case statement, you use the default command. So we type default, and then a colon, and then you can type in a trace statement if you want, or you can type in nothing, doesn't matter. So in the trace statement, I'll put a different key was pressed. And then we end with a break statement. So you can see that this code is a little bit more concise than what we did with the if statement. So sometimes you're going to want to use the if statement, but for something like a key press, the switch case statement is the better way to go. So using conditional statements, you can add logic to your code and decide which code to run based on any criteria you choose.